Welcome, everyone, to our Mosaic Arts Online live event. We want to thank all of you that have sent us messages telling us how important and uplifting these events have been for you. We are so happy we have been able to engage with all of you while we're all navigating these new waters. If this is your first live event, welcome. And you are welcome to also stay on this YouTube channel. And later, you can watch all of our past events. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. And in the chat, you can leave a hello to Rachel and I and where you're from. We would love to hear from you. We want to know where everybody is coming in from to watch this event. We've really put a lot of effort into this, and we really want to hear from all of you. So thank you for being here. Today we have another amazing artist instructor from Mosaic Arts Online here to share her passion and her life's work with her, Rachel Sager and the Ruins. This event was a bit of an undertaking. Now we have managed to figure out how to do 3 of us on here, maybe a PowerPoint, but now to add the YouTube video element, wow, it's been a lot, but we are so excited to share this with you. We're going to put a little clause in here that when we do pause the video, there will be a little bar at the bottom that unfortunately has some of our other videos. It's a little distracting, but you'll get past it. YouTube will not let us have a workaround for it. So with that said, when Rachel's speaking, you will just see up close and personal some incredible footage. Rachel has put so much into this, including 30 minutes of footage of the ruins. So this is such a treat. The way this will work today is that Rachel will be talking and I will be on as well. And we're going to stay in the small windows, and that will give you the biggest view of the artwork at the ruins. And then once it's all done, we will be able to possibly take questions from you. This will also go into our YouTube channel library, so you can visit this as many times as you like. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you my good friend, Rachel Sager, sharing her The Ruins Tour 2020.
Thank you, Tami. Before you hit the button and move on to the next place, I just want to say that it might look a little bit odd for my background. Because of the YouTube live, I had to come up to my aunt and uncle's house for the Wi-Fi. So I'm not in my studio with the Beatrice statue behind me and a mosaic behind me. I have pink curtains. I have a dried flower wreath behind me. My dear aunt and uncle, their last name is Blair, and we call this the Blair Yacht. So that's where I am tonight.
We want to thank Aunt and Uncle Blair for their generosity in allowing you to be up there, because yes, it is definitely going to give us a much better show. And also just remember to stay to the very end, because we have a really great bonus gift from Rachel and Mosaic Arts Online. So with that, Rachel, tell me when you're ready to go into the mode.
Let's go.
All right, here we go.
I have been asking myself from day one. This is drone footage, so I'm not going to explain the art while I'm going to talk about the ruins in general right now while the drone footage is going. But I've been trying to put what this crazy place is into one sentence for 5 years, and it's impossible. It's a really good problem to try to solve, but I've never been able to do it. Sometimes I call it a giant cement canvas. My friend Stevo Mosaics of the Great Train gave me that. He coined that phrase. You could also describe it by saying what it was, what this place was. It was a giant bituminous coal operation south of Pittsburgh that literally, and I use that word literally correctly in the English language, fueled the Industrial Revolution. Some of the best coal in the world came out of this little mine. But more than ever now, it's becoming a place for people to step outside of their realities, outside of the world, and not just go back in time, but also to rush forward. And I like to think of long dead coal miners and contemporary artists come together here and build on old stories as they are inventing new ones. And the ruins didn't just pop up in a vacuum. You could say that I have been working on this since the day I was born. That would not be an exaggeration. I come from coal. My dad, my grandfather, all through to my great-grandfather, coal mining defined my family for 100 years. I was taught through osmosis and action to understand what was beneath my feet, whether that was through stratigraphy, maybe press pause now, Tami, through the layers of the earth. I watched my dad, struggle in the coal business, and when it went under in this part of the world, he had to reinvent himself and become other things like a rock crusher or a clay miner, or he was a tire shredder at one point. So I spent my life watching my dad break up big rocks and turn them into little rocks. And the irony is certainly not lost on me that I do the same thing in a very different way. His was practical, mine is artistic. But I guess you could say the family legacy is continuing in just a very different way. So I ended up buying a coal mine by accident. I bought this piece of property for the house. I'm going to start talking about the art now. This Deb Engelbauer piece on the left. This is the front door. I call this the front door. Clock. This is the ruins clock on the left above the words. And Deb is north of Pittsburgh, so she is able to. She's made a very large footprint in the ruins. She has some of the biggest and most. She just has been here a lot and has made a really big impact. She has a clay background. She was a potter originally, and she didn't become a mosaic artist until meeting me. And it's been a beautiful thing to watch her marry the clay and the mosaic and put them together in this very new voice that is now becoming very recognizable. And you can see that she imprints her clay with images or words or numbers or textures, and then fires them. Sometimes it's little tessera that she creates. And then you can see that Banning number 2, that's the name of the coal mine. And through this line of sight, that's the compass rose for a giant map. That's also Deb's work. And then 1891, you see the number, that was the year the mine was opened. We're going to close up on this little cast glass piece with a lock that Megan Walsh gave me. I love that little thing. So be you traveler or native, artist or student, bring your best self to these walls. And there's no doubt that that's what people do. We're coming down to one of my favorite little installations, the Red Dog Flower Garden by Lynn Donahey from Virginia. This was one of the first student installations. You can see the little fern to the right, and I think we're going to pause it there. The Red Dog has become, its story has been weaving itself into the ruins. It's a leftover from the coal industry. So it's a kind of slag that has been transformed through fire and time. So if you look down at the bottom left corner, you see the black shale needles. Some of you have used those needles in your art. That I sometimes sell both of those materials, but the black was transformed into all these shades of red over long periods of time. And we love them because it's like all of the shades in the Crayola box, the sienna, what are some of the other ones? Burnt umber, the rust, the salmon. And I sell it. I have such a ball wrapping this stuff up in little bags with labels and shipping it to Israel or Australia or Scotland or wherever I'm sending it to for artists to experiment with it. It's a really cool material. And if you want to press play again, we're going to move over to we go from the humblest of the humble to the champagne of the mosaic world, which most of us know is the 24 karat gold smalty from Italy. I was lucky enough to get a large portion of this to outline the front door. And, it's my great pleasure to invite people when they come for tours to walk through my doorway of gold. Okay, Witsit. This is a detail of a very large map that you'll see in a minute, but I wanted to talk about Witsit for a minute. Witsit is the town that I live in. That's my little tiny art studio right there. I think that piece is 2 inch by 3 inch. It's made with micro mosaics, so it's very small. But Witsit as a town is very set apart from everywhere around here. It exists because of the coal mine. So the Pittsburgh Coal Company built Witsit for the coal miners and their families. You could call it a company town. It had the company store. They also called it a patch town because of the way it was built and the grid pattern. It's on the National Historic Register I think I'm saying that right. The whole town is, because it hasn't really changed all that much in the last 80 years. The coal company closed in 1946. And okay, I think we can press play again. We're going to meander along this beautiful orange glass that, strangely enough, Verdiano Marzi from Paris by way of Ravenna pulled this out of the back of a trunk when we were in outside of Paris, and handed it to me and said, "Rachel, this is very important German glass," and I carried it back in my suitcase. That's a little story. Okay, pause there. Falling Water. Falling Water, if there those of you who don't know, is one of Frank Lloyd Wright's, or probably his most famous piece of architecture, and it's 45 minutes from here, where we are, in Fayette County. I built this little tiny micro mosaic rendition of it, right about where it would be on the map, and people love seeing it because it's actually one of the more humbling experiences I have here, is giving tours to people of the ruins and knowing that, or hearing that they have been to Falling Water or going to Falling Water on the same weekend or even the same day. And it's become a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So, going to our little, little grassroots, whatever you want to call what we're doing here, and Falling Water in the same weekend is quite a compliment for us. So we really like that. Okay. And we're gonna meander along, and I want you to look for those little dots along the red. You see the little blue dots with the yellow inside of them. Erin Pankratz from Edmonton, Canada, stopped here one afternoon. She's been here once, and she made her little signature dots, laid them all over my picnic table up here in the workroom, and I incorporated them into the little town landmarks. So that was a pretty cool to be able to see her little signature in here. And this is Deb Engelbauer's Compass Rose. And one of the points I want to make, I think we're going to come closer there. The illusion of this piece is just stunning to me. I'm touching the copper because it looks, especially when you're farther away, it truly looks like metal. It looks like copper, but it's clay. She has formed these 3D pieces from clay and stained them very, very expertly to really look like a copper directional piece in the Compass Rose. So it's a great piece. And you can see the little tessera that she creates out of clay, and just all kinds of little details to get lost in her pieces. Another thing I like about how she works is that she lets the wall breathe through the art. She doesn't cover every square inch when her pieces. She's always leaving spaces to let the wall talk, and the walls definitely talk. Okay, we're moving on. This is Annabella Wooer from Philadelphia, very classically trained mosaicist. She spent a lot of time with the masters over in Europe, and you see that in the andamento in her language. This piece is called East Meets West, and it's making that connection between the steel industry and the coal industry. They need each other. They work together. One little amazing detail about this piece that you wouldn't necessarily know, it looks like stone, but in fact, Annabella has poured little concrete blocks. I think they were 2 inches by 2 inches in 7 different shades that she, with pigment herself. And so she made her own blocks and then cut her own tessera out of those concrete blocks, which just is kind of mind-boggling how much work that was involved in creating that. And the walls of the ruins are concrete, so it was her way of making this piece become part of the wall. And then this little half circle that you see, the little black circle, is Annabella being also sensitive to one of the other themes that has been just kind of naturally growing here. Nothing is ever really finished. There's so many artists coming in and out, and some have a day, some will commit years to working here. It just depends on where you are in the world, to how much time you have. But you might make something, and Annabella very clearly left that half circle as an invitation to another artist. I think it was me, which I would really like to get on that circle and finish it. But it could be anybody. And, you know, some pieces are more finished than others. You're going to see one here in a minute that is very finished, but this one is very open-ended. And I find that to be very generous when an artist does that knowingly, especially with how much work they put into something, knowing that they're trusting the next person to come along. I think I'm going to go sideways here. Sorry about this. I'm not the best videographer. It's not my forte, but you see that beautiful red smalty. And this piece undulates. She's one of those artists who are building the 3D curves into their substrates. There's another little dot by Erin. You see all the different shades of that concrete now. Bonnie Kennard of Virginia, very different, another very classically made on Demento piece, but much, much smaller. This is only maybe 1 foot by 8 inches. Great little piece though. And then we're gonna look down the line of sight and you see Annabella's piece from the side. And I think we're gonna pause here, right, Tami?
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm gonna give you a little introduction to we're going to do a video where I'm talking on the video. So I'm going to stop talking and let myself talk, if that makes sense. But I just want to give you a little preview. Last fall, when we were doing the gear wall, which we're going to come up to in a few minutes, it was such a runaway international magnet for mosaicists that there's so many people from around the world were wanting to be a part of this room that it just began to feel international. And I started thinking about how the coal mine itself was a melting pot. All the different countries, the new immigrants right off the boat who didn't even speak English, they were the men that opened this mine up and first started it. And then there were lots of different stories that went along, but it was always a very mixed up kind of a what's the word? Well, a melting pot, just to make it, you know. And so Stevo and I of the train I had this idea to start tracing countries with stain. You don't like to use paint on these walls, but stain is a really good way to create an outline that won't get in the way of mortar later. So I started coming up with all of these countries, and Stevo has this wonderful projector that we have to use at night. It lights up at night. So we have these midnight tracing parties. And I started drawing the countries just very spontaneously, for sure. And there are several countries in play right now. We have quite a few, and I'll point out some of the ones that aren't here yet a little later. But this one, I want to introduce you to Australia. It is on the wall. Marion Shapiro and Caitlin Hepworth. We have one more piece of Australia to go. I'm holding this because this piece on the right seems to be sliding. None of the rest of them slid, but we might have to hold this one for 10 minutes while it stays up. One of the things that I wanted to point out of how well this is working for what Marion and Caitlin did is that they put these little blue pieces of tape on their puzzle pieces. This is E section and this is C section, and that helped us line them up perfectly. Yeah, I just wanted to show you all that Deb and I have beautifully back buttered the piece, and we've also buttered the wall with thin layers all the way to the edges. We want to make sure there aren't any little pockets of air behind the mesh, right? I'm gonna sit down here. It's very hot today. All right. Just like a puzzle. Beautiful. Beautiful. This is where you massage the piece in to the wall. And we might have to hold it for a few minutes to make sure that it doesn't slide. And again, you see the tape coming together here. That makes our job so much easier. I give Marion and Caitlin so much credit for putting together not just a beautiful piece, but a very well orchestrated installation. Thank you very much. Okay, good. Oh yeah, one more time. Just take your head back to Australia. We don't have to go back to it, but I didn't get to really talk about what they had designed, but that is a fire map of Australia. Some of you may know that Caitlin's studio years ago, if not a few years ago, I think burnt to the ground, right? She lost her whole studio. And while they were building this, they were in the middle of the most recent wildfires. So it's a heat map is what it is. And it starts, in the middle, it's very dark, and it radiates out into the oranges and the yellows. And it's a very contemporary piece in style and in subject matter. And I just love how that, is put onto this old wall, and, where all these old stories are happening, but it's part of the new story. So, okay. The gears. This is.
Oh gosh.
That's
Hold
okay.
on.
Okay, that's all right. I'll talk about the gears maybe before you hit. Maybe press pause again. Again, Stevo we had a big pile of these gears, and we were going to incorporate them into the train, which was a huge project last summer, and they were going to be beautiful in the train, but they fell behind a table, a workbench, while Stevo was building the train, and we lost them completely. I looked for them, I couldn't find them, and then one day while I was cleaning, after the train was completely done, I found the gears, and Stevo said, "Well, what do you want? Do you want to just take them, Rachel? Just take them." So I was, again, very spontaneously started attaching them to this, what I used to call the hot mess wall, because some walls have a plan, like the map wall had a big plan. The train that you'll see is going to have a plan, but this was just a very organically growing kind of people experimenting wall. But the gears gave it structure, and they gave it a stylistic theme with all the circles and the rust. And again, that's really kind of how this international thing started, because it's very easy for an international artist to make a small mosaic that fits inside of a gear and become a part of this bigger story. So this little fox is Sherry Fox from California. I'm going to have to talk about them quickly. This is Kenneth Blaine from Puerto Rico, a little piece of the ocean there, beautiful colors of blue. The doorway, all kinds of beautiful ondamento explorations going on in this wall between the gears. There's Kelly Knickerbocker, Jolie Sperling, Megan Walsh, just all kinds of people there, right in that one little spot. Marjolaine from Quebec did these 3 beautiful pink circles. Marion Shapiro, the fish skeleton. Libby Hins, the really beautiful beaded Native American looking gear. Another Marion Shapiro fish. That's before she did Australia. Aida Valencia from Tijuana, right there with the black, beautiful. And the wonderful little butterfly is Lynn Adamo from Oregon. Jane Chaskey with the rusty nails and the slate. This is one of my favorites. Little tiny bits of 24 karat gold hidden in there. That's a wonderful piece. Marion Lloyd from Brazil. I think I'm right about that. That beautiful tile that she scavenged in the city. Let's see what's next. Dawn Mendelsohn. Beautiful piece. And then above it is a little bee. There are lots of bees in the ruins. Leanne Taylor and Jennifer Case have taken it upon themselves to make bees with abandon. Sarah Jane Melville of Scotland with this little lichen piece. And can you press pause here, Tami? I think I kind of blocked it out, but at the bottom of this gear, you see these beautiful lines of ondamento. That is Margie Cottingham from Wisconsin, who you're going to see her much larger piece in a little while. This was her first little, just flirting with the ruins, the first visit that she had. And she was working on what I call intuitive ondamento, which is building these lines of communication, learning the language of mosaic, but inserting your own personality and your own voice into it. And learning the rules and breaking the rules all at the same time. It's become I would say my signature teaching thing that I do. And Intuitive Andamento 1 and 2 are available at Mosaic Arts Online. So just wanted to put that little bit of information in there. So this blue shower drain is myself. I love turning something that was useless into something beautiful, like we all do, right? Yeah, see the Andamento there. This is Polly Lloyd of Ohio. Lots of wonderful clay pieces in that. This is Karen Sassine. That's a fan favorite with the wonderful rainbow colors. Misha Moore with the hot pink. Stephanie Crescenza. I love this little tiny river scene with the sun and the rocks and the water. Glenda Chamberlain with the desert rose and the wonderful marble. And then Julie Crispin. Let's stop here again too. The detail in this piece is almost micro mosaic. Some of these pieces are sandstone cut so small, and she had a gear that had a lot of different holes in it, and she just really rocked it with the sandstone here. I just love that piece. Okay. So that was Julie. We have Claire Hemsworth of Yorkshire, England, with the beautiful Picassiette S. And Rachel Davies of Scotland always does stellar work. I think we were going to press pause here, Tami. I just wanted to mention, this is Jan Timrick here with the Red Dog centerpiece. Very early on, I realized that this big giant project I was undertaking could easily lose its focus. I knew that I had to have other artists coming to be a part of this to help me tell these stories, but I also knew how important the legacy of the coal mine is to me and to many of the people that live around here. It's a very important story for us. So how could I bring all these people from all over the world and have them be themselves and have fun, but still have some kind of control? So I came up with 3 very simple roles, and they don't get in the way of the artist's personality. And it's 5 years later, and they're really working. I would say it's as long as you can understand the 3 roles. Number 1 is to honor what was. It does not mean that you have to work with coal or you have to create a coal miner or anything like that. In a way, it just means maybe not to dishonor the memory of this mine and the culture of coal. Coal has absolutely become a political football in this modern world we live in. But I believe that the stories we're telling here, I think they transcend politics. I think that they celebrate lives and the stories of families. And I think those stories are more important to me than trying to look at anything in a black and white way. And so number 2 is to build relationships with raw material, which means that we get our hands dirty, our feet dirty, our knees dirty. We go down to the river. We learn how to tell what the difference between sandstone and limestone. And then obviously, get very close to our hammer and hardy and learn how to break them all up and make our own tessera. So I do discourage artists who come here to bring a lot of man-made, Michaels, baubles, things that get sprinkled, those kinds of things. Smalty is always welcome here, though. There's I think we all understand that Smalty has an organicness to it, even though it is man-made. I never turn down Smalty. Number 3, what's number 3? Walk the line. That's my Johnny Cash way of talking about that language, the andamento, the way that pieces of things talk to each other. And doesn't mean you can totally be a beginner and still be a part of this, but you have to at least understand something about the rules and how they work and how to, like I said, how to make the pieces talk to each other in an interesting or elegant way of some kind. So that's my short story long in the 3 rules. Okay, we can keep going now.
All right. Sorry, I got a little intoxicated with your talk and missed my one cue, but I'm back on now.
Okay.
Here we go.
So Jan Timrick. Okay, now we're going to move up to Linda Rosenbloom from Pennsylvania. Beautiful metal flower with great smalty color mixes in that one. Amy Burke from Pittsburgh, also up on the top. Yeah, the top piece there. This crazy red and turquoise is. Oh my gosh, I can't talk fast enough. Sorry. That's okay. Kim Porter of Florida. The canary is Linda Rosenbloom again, and above that is Angelo Pomeray from Toronto. The coal miner is Robin Moyer. Beautiful. I love that yellow. Ursula Haber from Florida. That copper bullseye piece is, people love that piece. Patricia Brash from Canada. That's a representation of the 5 Great Lakes of Canada with the blue. Great piece. Another Lynn Adamo. This is a much more organic piece. I love the color combinations. I think she made that in a hotel room in Spain. We're going to pause here. This is Lindy Criswell from Arkansas. And I pause here partly, it's a great piece. It's a true micro mosaic. This is made with Filati. It's a very small gear. I think it's only maybe 3.5 inches diameter. But one of the, I use this as an example of size in tessera and how important that is when you're creating a composition. If Lindy had used regular sized mosaic in tessera in this very small gear, she would not have been able to get this entire African landscape into that small little piece of real estate. She was able to create a little world in that because of the tiny size of her tessera. You can even see around the edges there are the 5 big animals of the safari. I can't think of what they are. I know there's a lion, a tiger, an elephant, a rhino. It's a wonderful little micro mosaic world that she created. And there's another course that I teach, intuitive composition, which it does talk a lot about size of tessera and how important that is. Depending on your size. I mean, we talk about this giant cement canvas that we have, right? And it seems a little bit crazy to put micro mosaic on these giant walls, but if you're here in person and you're looking at this piece, you gravitate towards it. It pulls you in. Okay. Sue Letich, and I'm so sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, from Tasmania, this beautiful geological piece with all the white stone. She actually did 2 pieces. You'll see her second piece in a minute. Rosalind Clark from Virginia, beautiful stained glass. Elsa from Belgium, that's my Belgian chicken. Very classically made piece. That piece is made differently than anything else here. She's a very classically trained mosaicist. That's also Sue there. Stasha Harvey McKnight actually put miner's tags into her piece. This is the mouse with the blackberries. And I do want to stop here. I go to a lot of work and trouble to log all of the artists that come here and work. And it's getting harder all the time because there's more and more people coming all the time. And it's my honor to do that. And I make, I create your names in clay when I'm firing the kiln, and I put them up on the wall of names. That little mouse with the blackberry piece, which is so adorable, arrived this spring when my father died, and I hope you're watching. I really do. I hope you're watching and you reach out to me, because I cannot find your letter of introduction and your information, and I just feel terrible about it. And so I hope that if someone that knows that wonderful piece and that artist can reach out to me. So I'm trying to problem solve while I'm giving you a tour.
And if you're even on the event right now, and you can put it in the chat, so we would know.
Yes.
All right. Are you ready?
I think we have one more. Oh, that's Julie Sperling's foot. That is not a gear. Some beautiful houses there in clay. Jean Hall of Oregon, that beautiful horizontal ondimento there. And I think the last thing is going to be Julie Sperling's right foot. Yep, there it is. So that's all the gears. So far, there are 36. Now we are going to move on and walk down this beautiful little green pathway. We're on the far left outside of the ruins. This is the coke oven that is also a beehive. Jennifer Case from the Poconos. This was a student project and a very successful piece. You see the little bees coming out of the chimney instead of smoke. The coke ovens were the dirtiest part of the coal industry. The coal had to be turned into coke, which then went to the furnaces in Pittsburgh. And we love this piece because it's a hybrid, and it crosses the boundary of industry and nature, and it kind of puts them up next to each other. And that's another theme going on too. I don't know if you want to press pause here. Did I tell you to press pause? I forget. Mm-hmm. But another theme going through the ruins is that resiliency of nature, and how, you know, industry can have devastating effects on the environment. Absolutely, it has. But when, in the end, and I can attest to this, I really can. Nature wins. It absolutely does. This place has been sitting here. All these acres of rooms and walls that I'm taking you through has been sitting here quietly, waiting and recovering for 80, 90 years. And there are wildflowers here that I've never seen in my life. The trees have had, I mean, we're starting to beat some of them back, but the trees had enveloped this place to the point that it felt like a Mayan temple in the jungle. I mean, it was hidden. It really was. And we've very judiciously are taking trees out to let the light back in, and, you know, to keep things a little more dry for the arts. But yeah, so the resiliency of nature, that's what this piece represents to me. I love it. Okay. The moss is part of the art, no doubt. It's not real green right now because it's midsummer, but in the springtime, it's electric. We're coming up to A Pluribus Unum, which is an installation, again, by Deb Engelbauer and myself. So it's a two-parter. These two pieces, the flag and the color study, work together to tell one bigger story. Sorry about the sideways. The flag is meant to look ragged. It's meant to have seen better days. It's quite obviously under duress. It's having a very hard time. And as I give tours this spring, the tours are just starting to, you know, get moving again after all the shutdown. This flag is becoming more meaningful all the time. It's just a very prescient piece, I think. And the color study, which is the left, was my own part of this. This coal mine, I told you already that it was peopled by very new immigrants in the beginning, people from all over Eastern Europe, Russia, Italy, England, Ireland. That's just a little sampling of where they were from, but that's what these colors are about, the different cultures. You want to press pause again, because I don't have enough time. I'm sorry. Do
you want me to go back to the color study?
Sure. Yeah, go back.
Yeah, why not? Right.
I did want to say one more thing about the colors, because this coal mine, it had many different different decades of, you know, in the beginning, like I said, it was the Eastern Europeans that came, and then in the 1920s and 30s, the Great Migration happened, and that's when African American men from the South migrated north. They were escaping the bad stories, they were escaping the racism and the history, and they were looking for work, really. And this coal mine was one of the very first in this whole area to adopt what was called an open door policy. And that meant that a Black man could rise up through the hierarchy of this coal mine in the 20s and 30s, farther up than he ever could before. And it was a big deal. And as a result of that, Whitsett, to this day, the legacy of that one rule that this coal mine had, and believe me, it wasn't an altruistic thing. They were looking for cheap labor, and that's why they did it. But Whitsett to this day is a Black and white community, 50-50, and it's in the middle of rural Pennsylvania, kind of the middle of nowhere. But it just fascinates me that something like that could have played through all this, all the way to 2020, and that's what this piece was about. And it's obviously becoming more meaningful all the time too, to both Deb and I. So, and the color study itself was completely intuitive. You'll notice that I do like that word. I just used every color in my color library, and I didn't really put a lot of thought into it. Be interested what Annabella would have to say about that. I wasn't using a color wheel. I wasn't thinking. I was just making what feels like the next right choice. And so it was just a whole lot of fun, and I had a blast. And I was working right next to Deb, and we work really well together. So we're listening to the birds, and just having a great month. We pretty much worked on those two pieces for about a month. It was great. So, all right, thank you. This little trouble sign was one of the very first things I put up. I didn't really have a reason for it, but I really like it. And now we are going to a whole new area. I think we're going to press pause here. This is something that's not here yet. I like saying it like that. Again, the ruins is never finished, right? It's always a work in progress. And this buttress, which was part of the ramp where the coal cars would come and dump the coal into the big room that we just left. But this buttress up here is going to hold a very very mysterious imaginary animal that Karen Dimmitt from New York City is building as we speak. Unfortunately, she is separated from her studio. She's in Chelsea and her studio is in Long Island City, so she has not been able to work on this wonderful piece for months. But she will get there, and it will get here, and it's going to be quite a dazzling sculpture, 3D, looking down at us. And when we pass by this animal, we're going to be coming into a whole new world, which is going to be called the Threshold. So I'm not going to give you all the details about that yet. This is the Threshold area. And if you come, you're seeing this now. I'm hoping by next year, this will be a completely transformed area. Very different working on the brick as opposed to the concrete. And you really have to think about artistically how the mosaic works with the brick, because there's so many interstices in the brick anyway. And now we're coming to our very first portrait. This is Margie Cottingham from Wisconsin. She built her coal miner. Margie is a coal miner's daughter also, and she spent a week with me last winter, and we hatched this plan to do a portrait. I'm not a portraiture artist in any way, so one of my jobs as the curator for this place is just to wait until the right person comes along, and that's what I did. And then she just showed up, and she was ready, and she had the time. This took her 6 months. It's a very large piece. She built it in 5 sections in her studio in Wisconsin, and then she and her husband brought it last summer on mesh and big pieces of plywood, and we installed it all in one day. Very successful piece. She did use my boyfriend Robert as her model. He's very embarrassed about that, but it looks just like him. If you know him, you can recognize him immediately. And this is a really good piece to talk about placement. How important it is to put the right piece in the right place. This wall is facing the mountain, so it's facing the coal mine entrance, and it's in a spot that really hardly ever gets sun. I think it gets sun in the wintertime for like an hour a day, but it's in the dark. And we did that on purpose, because a coal miner is always in the dark too. And she used wonderful natural material from her home and from here. She foraged here also. And his lamp and his highlights on his face are 24 karat gold smalty in like the silvery white color. So if you come back here at night and shine a light on his lamp, it just pops out at you. It's amazing. And I always like to come over and touch his beard like I do the real thing. Look at those eyes, huh? And as we pan back out, I'll mention something else. I think I'm going to look up at the stalactites. Yeah, you can't really see them in this image, but these are little tiny stalactites that are just getting started. We have a plan for the background around him that hasn't happened yet. Again, nothing's ever quite finished. Right now, he's floating a little bit on the wall, but that's going to be addressed in the nearer far future. So, okay. And I look up at the canopy. Not every installation is big and ambitious. There's this is Polly Loy's little ruins project, just a little kind of hidden thing. You don't see everything in one tour. There's no way to see everything. I love this little bit of brickwork up at the top of that roof line. I always imagine an old Italian mason being very just like saying, this is the way it's done, even though it didn't have to be fancy. He wanted to make it fancy. And then, you know, the moss and the wood interacting with the brick. We're coming up to our resident porcupine. So, oh, no, we'll look at the porcupine in a minute. This is my mountain girls, Sarah and Barbara, come once or twice a year and are slowly building this mountain range that is also becoming layers of stratigraphy. And it's becoming a whole very organic world in itself. They added all kinds of fossils last year, and they're going to be putting the phases of the moon here on this blank wall. And you see the sun. I think that looks like a Hundertwasser sun. This is Henrietta, the porcupine. And what does a porcupine have to do with coal mining, right? Do you want to press pause, Tami? This room, once the animals started popping up, we decided to call it the cave. And before the coal mine started, before people even knew that there was coal here, the Native Americans were in charge of this whole place. The Iroquois, the Algonquin, the Lenape, they were all over this area. It was a beautiful, rich area with animals. And so we are always looking for more animals. And this is Sherry Grassmuck. This was a ruins project piece. And just yesterday, I have to show, can you put me on the big camera? Yeah, just yesterday, I got this in the mail from Sherry. And this is a baby porcupine. So this is going to be installed behind Henrietta, the mother. And it's just a beautiful piece. It's all made from shale, little highlights. I think, I hope I'm not wrong about this, Sherry, but I think this might be your grandfather's gold tooth in there with her, in her eye. You can see that. But this baby porcupine has a lot of personality. So just wanted to share that with you. Okay. And back there in the darkness is the original portal, which is the entrance to the coal mine. Can't really see it too well right here. It's all closed in. We don't go in there at all. And this was our first animal, the white-tailed deer, by Laura Paul from San Francisco, built from red dog, sandstone, marble. She was inspired by the Lascaux caves, and she got the animals started. So when kids come through this little area, I tell them to, how many animals can you find? Count the animals. This is our only copperhead snake that we have ever seen here, Jan Timrick, made from red dog, sandstone, shale. And I love how she made the snake undulate up into the windowsill and then back down again. It's a great piece. And then up to the Otter and the Crayfish by Lindy Criswell. I'm gonna zoom into this little crayfish. Red dog, a little piece of millefiori for the eye. Just a wonderful little illustrative animal. The river is very important to this little part of the world that we're in. Rainbow trout. This is a great student piece too. I think this looks like it could jump out of a wall in Pompeii. It's such classical language in that piece. And now we are going to start very slowly going down a piece called I Am the Arrow by Wendy Casperson. All kinds of things to see in this piece. Lots of, it almost all comes from the river. Wendy, deer teeth. It's amazing. The river runs through the whole piece. So you see the blue smalty running through. Wendy's from Pittsburgh, and she comes every weekend in the summer And this is her magnum opus. She has been working on this for almost 2 years now, and she's very carefully choosing the next stripe in the arrow. So this is going to be, I think, look at that red dog. Isn't that beautiful? That's a great example of how red dog can be used on its side or flat, both ways, and how different it looks. But what am I saying about the arrow? 40 feet long eventually. She's more than halfway done now, and with every few feet she picks a new material to experiment with. So she's truly learned how to be a mosaic artist as she creates this arrow. Okay. Look at that little detail of red dog. Yeah. Stained glass, river pebbles, and then we come to the beautiful Marcellus shale, which makes up the arrowhead itself. Wonderful faceting, naturally faceted material. She even has turkey feathers hanging down from it. So it's truly it's a Native American inspired piece. And then I'm going to pan out and you can see how long it's going to be. It's going to go all the way to the end of the wall. All right. And now we have the biggest mosaic train in the world. And until I'm proven wrong, I'm going to stick with that. This is Stevo Mosaics from Pittsburgh. You saw a lot of this in the drone footage, so I'm going to do close-ups. Stevo and I met 2 winters ago and just hit it off amazingly. He's a coal miner's son. He grew up in the culture. His father and grandfather both died as a result of coal mining, and he took on this giant project. I gave him the biggest wall we had, the longest wall, and he created a perfect replica in mosaic of a very specific locomotive that actually ran along this, what is now the bike trail. So the rails to trails used to be a railroad, and then they changed it to the bike trail. So everything changes, right? But it's called the Pittsburgh and Lake Erie line, and it was a very short railroad line, but it carried so much material that they called it the Little Giant, because it did so much. Marguerite Trail, she's all kinds of wonderful people donated to make this happen.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rachel, give people a background on how their names got up there and how the trees are painted, within to make it look like it's going, behind the trees.
Right. So much. I mean, I could talk about the train for an hour. So,
that'll be part 2.
Mosaico, yeah. We did a GoFundMe. This was the only one we've ever done, and it was amazingly successful. Anyone who donated $100 or more got their name put onto the train. It paid for the glass. It paid Stevo for some of his time. It was a 4-month project, and he had a few volunteers here and there, but the vast majority of this piece was done by him in 4 months, 1 piece at a time. This was not a mesh piece. Each piece was laid right here. That's my grandfather, Harold Sager, and my cousins. It just was, it transformed the ruins. It transformed Stevo. It transformed me. This is a lot of people call it the train tour instead of the ruins tour. The people that understand trains, they can be crazy. They can be like in a good way, but they know their trains, and they look at this, the way that he built this, with the certain wheels and everything, and they know exactly what kind of a locomotive it is. There's my sister Molly, and my dad and mom. But yeah, I could talk like I said, there's so many things to talk about. That's the logo. He did build this in the studio, the P&LE logo, and that just shows the absolute length. It's 67 feet long, 6.5 feet tall. It's built all of stained glass. And it's different. It stands out in the ruins as a different style of mosaic. How I'm always talking about the sourcing the raw materials and using the hammer and hardy and using the geology. I departed from that, all those kinds of rules for this piece, because an artist presented himself to me and he had a certain skill set, and it was very impressive. I knew he could work really, really big. And I knew that he was very invested in the history of coal. So all these things came together, and I just decided to give him the biggest real estate that we had, and it has just, like I said, it's transformed what we have here.
And we should all hopefully be so lucky to hear him present the whole experience at the Society of American Mosaic Artists Conference in January, virtually or in Tucson, most likely virtually. But it's very exciting that Steve is going to be one of our presenters and get to share his experience. And hopefully the two of you need to enter it into the Guinness Book of World Records too. That's my plug.
Stevo is a joy to be with. He's a joy to work with. He's just a wonderful guy. So.
And we hope to get him out here to do a course as well. So yes, all good things. So all right, there's the train, which I never got to see. I was there, but pre-train. Okay, here we go.
Okay, what's next?
Oh,
I'm going to stop talking again. Okay, well, I'll give an intro to this. Some of you may have been paying attention to Instagram or Facebook and seeing the tiny wall get started. I live right next to a salvage yard, and there's this great guy who runs Route 51 Salvage, and he's always giving me boxes of things. Rachel, you could do something with this. Rachel, you could do something with this. You know how they do that to artists, right? But one of
Kelly, you out there?
Yeah, one of those things was this box of little ceramic rings. And they were white, and I think there might be 500 of them in this box, and they're from the 40s or 30s or something. They're vintage. They don't say on the box what they were used for, some kind of industrial process of some kind. So they sat under my studio for, I don't know, maybe 2 years, just sitting there waiting, just like everything else. And I've been working so much in micro mosaic, and I've been pulling my own Filati and Malmescato. And I'm a little bit obsessed with it. And one of these days I looked at those rings and I thought, wow, that could be micro mosaic. So I did one, right? And then I put it on Instagram and I said, hey, who wants to do one of these? And again, it's just been amazing. The people that have responded to this, I have 52 of the rings done already on the wall. I just received 12 more from Helga. Thank you very much, Helga. And it's growing, and it's going to be its own color study. So it doesn't have a coal theme. It's just artists experimenting. And one of the reasons that I think it's so popular right now is because everybody's so stuck, and a lot of us are stuck away from our real studios, some of us. And so it's very easy to work tiny, so it's even easier to become a part of the ruins with just these little tiny rings. So I'll stop talking and you can listen to this now. Very beginning of the tiny wall at the Ruins Project. Many of you out there are making these tiny little rings in your own micro mosaic or purchased Filati, and it's all Filati. And this is the very beginning. I'm starting out with one of my favorite colors, green, and we're going to slowly move along this wall and then up to the next wall. And it's a very, I'm going to use the word intuitive, I love that word, organic project that is just going to kind of build as we go. There's not a real big plan. It's just what's the next right color. And one of the things that Deb and I were just discussing is the spaces between. And we have recently decided to create some of the rings broken. So even maybe more broken than this, and that way little pieces of rings will be able to fit through into some of the little holes. So there you go. And if you are interested in being a part of this tiny ring project, please contact me and I will get you some rings. Again, I just want to show, I have a couple of the rings right here that just arrived today, Tami.
Okay.
I don't know if this is going to be, see. These are from Helga from Florida, and she is as obsessed with Filati as I am right now. She keeps making more and sending them. They're beautiful, gorgeous. They have salmon, sea green, orange. Anyway, I just wanted to show you those real life. Okay.
Rachel, is it possible that should they want to learn how to make the pulled version of your Filati, that there may be a course coming out soon?
Thank you. There is going to be a course. I'm going to be filming Intuitive Malmescato, which is going to be learning how to make your own Filati and mixing, not just making Filati, but mixing colors. And it is possibly the most fun thing I have ever done ever. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait. So
cannot wait to share it with all of you.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Of Chicago.
Hey, Rachel.
Yes.
I messed up and didn't mute you, so I'm going to back you up because you were telling all about this area. So start again from there.
Okay. This is the chapel. It's a smaller room in the ruins, and that's the ruins angel up there high. Cindy Robin built that from a mine jack that we pulled up out of the dirt. These are 3 names: Andrew Vargo, Henry Garner, and Homer Young. And they were the last 3 men to die in this mine in 1946 when it closed. Lots of tragedies wrapped up in coal mining stories. Those are 3 that I know of, and we're always working to put more. I'm showing you this little spot right here because Cindy Robin is working on a new piece I'm not going to tell you about because she's not ready to have it unveiled yet. This was another student piece, beautiful use of natural material to create a peace sign. Some little bats up at the top. We had some bats in this room, so just some cute little bats. Wendy Gray Raven did this very abstract ruins project as a student a few years ago. And let's see, I did want to mention, can you press pause again, Tami? When you were looking at the train, I don't know if we can go back or not. We don't have to, but Jan Timrick, I'm sorry, not Jan Timrick, Jan Dongilly, a good friend who was an art teacher, a local art teacher, came in and painted the beautiful trees that are embedded into the train. They're like negative space, and they mimic there's trees everywhere. There's trees behind the train, trees in front of the train, and then the trees that are built into the train. There you go. Yeah. And originally we were just going to leave them negative space, but Jan came along and said, why don't you let me shade these a little bit? And so she just very just spur of the moment just started shading the walls, and they made them look more like trees. So that's not the best one, but again, it's a lot of my job is just waiting until the right people show up. Okay. I'm not sure what's next. Is it the wall of names possibly? Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's the rings. And gonna come over. You can see that my house peeking up over the top of that wall. I don't know if you can see the little brick house with the windows. Yeah. And this is the gear wall in full, not the whole thing, but it gives you a little bit of an idea of how big it is. And I don't know if you can see some of the outlines of the countries starting. There's Brazil, Hungary, Poland, England, Ireland, Scotland, and some, but not all of these countries are in play right now, in studios around the world, just like Australia. And a lot of these things got put on hold because of COVID. And, we had so many of the artists were coming this summer. They were bringing their countries physically. They were going to be on the ground. It was so exciting. And then we had to just put everything on hold. So I think it'll still happen. But what else did I want to say here? So the countries, another thing that I think about when I look at this wall here a lot is because of how it started. It was, for a long time, it didn't make any sense. There were just these little disparate installations of people playing here and there, and nothing was really hooking together. But I'm starting to see it as a composition now. That word composition has become, it's important to all of us, obviously, as artists, right? Composition is in some ways the most important thing. How you put a picture together, how you make people feel things by putting elements together, combined in certain ways. And I taught a course from Mosaic Arts Online last year called Intuitive Composition. And I think this is a great example of it. It's lots of different artists' intuitions coming together on one wall, which is very complicated, but it seems to be working.
So yeah, so it's important that they understand you just don't throw stuff up on the wall. It's very chosen. No. Right. And you work really hard to have some amount of cohesive continuity happening, even though it's so organic.
Right. And this wall is a lot of fun because it's a little bit looser than all the other ones. But if you think about like my job is getting harder all the time because I mean, we're in our 5th year, so we've done a lot of work already. We have a lot of stuff up, but I have to really think very carefully of what's going to go near the train, right? And whatever goes next to the train or in the next room has to complement the train. Whatever goes near that coal miner portrait has to in some way work with it. So, I mean, it's a challenge that I'm thrilled about, but it is getting a little bit trickier as we move along. So, and one of the other really fun things, because I did retire from active live teaching last year, you know, I have to thank all those four years of students in the beginning because they got this thing started. You know, if you're listening and you were a student here, I thank you so much because you started that momentum. You started that snowball that we have now. And now I have the luxury of sitting back and having independent artists approach me, you know, that are, I use the word independent because they are, they, you know, they work at home and they know what they're doing and they finish their pieces and either bring them or send them in the mail. So we've worked very, very hard to get to this point of having that luxury. So who knows what's going to happen next? Yeah, there's, okay. I think we might have a little bit more video.
Yeah, we have about 6 more minutes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's some highlights of the rings. I love that chartreuse. A lot of these ring artists, not all, but a lot of them are pulling their own filati already, which you know, is quite another thing from purchased. There's the hot reds up to the oranges and the yellows. So in the beginning, I'm leaving these all separated from each other because they're going to be getting filled in as time goes on. Maybe I'll have 1,000 rings someday. I don't know. The light's really nice there right now too. Okay, and this is the wall of names. I don't know if you're going to be able to see. There's lots of people on there. Lots of people, and I have a lot of catching up to do. Ever since the years started, I lost. I kind of got behind. I need to do another run of names. But one of the very ironic things about this wall of names is that is 98% women, and the energy of this place has changed. Has changed so dramatically. The coal mine was 100% men. You know, 100% men, and now it is all women. And you know, it's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just different, right? That all this female energy coming in here. Yeah, it's pretty.
It's a good balance.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
all right.
That time travel thing. Okay, we're gonna end with one more video. I received a gear in the mail. Look at that little turtle out there. I received a gear in the mail just a few days ago, and I decided to put one more little snippet of video to show you just how, you know, how I install something. Yeah. So
what I'm going to really quickly say is I just got shown a question from Liz Ford, and this will probably answer your question because you asked, like, on the Australian ones, the back buttering on the wall and on the mesh. So Liz, watch what Rachel does in this video.
To end this wonderful hour we've spent together with one last gear that has just arrived recently by Carol Mastrioni. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but I tried. And it's a beautiful little coal mining landscape. And if you can come closer in, and you can see the entrance is made with this shale. Look at how simple that is. Maybe 12 pieces of shale all going horizontally, and it's quite obviously an entrance. The railroad, little pieces of iron ore pellets, and I think this is shale from her part of the world too. Just a very nice little representational image of the coal mine. So I'm going to install this live right here for you. One of the things that we always do before an install, and sometimes I'll use a wire brush also, but this is pretty clean right here, is to clean the wall. I've already talked a little bit about the imperfections of these walls and how amazing that is for integrating art into them, but it can also cause some practical problems. They're not always even, you know, sometimes they have big lumps, sometimes there's moss growing on them, and then we really have to scrub because you can't put thin set over moss or something growing. So the cleaning process is the beginning. And then I'm going. The other detail about what we've learned over the years for install is that we back butter the piece and the wall, which seems like a bit of overkill, but we do that because, again, of that irregularness of the wall. Sometimes there's holes, sometimes there are big lumps, and we found that if we make a bed and a back butter, we have more of a smooth adhesion all around. And then I'm going to pick my spot right here. A little bit of a hard piece there. This is Laticrete 254, which is our mortar of choice here. We love Laticrete products. 254 is exterior. It'll hold up, hopefully last longer than we do. That's the plan. Okay. I'm going to switch you there. And the mesh works really well. So let's make sure I have this the right way. I'm going to fold this under because I'm going to put it right there snug against here. Maybe I'll fold this too. The mesh does two things. It helps when the artist is making the piece, and then it also helps, I'm going to ask for the thin set back now. Okay, you watch this part right here, because without the mesh, the gear will slide while it's still wet. And we find that especially on the top, if we have that mesh that hangs on, it keeps it from sliding. So that's a really good, to leave an inch or two around the edge is a good trick. And then I could spend a good 10 minutes finishing this off, making it really smooth. And also, the other thing that we also like is the gray of this Laticrete 254. It's very neutral, and it just kind of becomes a part of the wall. It's not, see, we use black for this one. See the big difference? Sometimes we use black. Eventually all of these spaces in between will be getting covered with other things. So we're not real concerned about things not looking perfect right around the gear, as long as they're smooth and ready for the next thing. Because you all know that, I've already told you, nothing is ever finished at the ruins. Just want to make sure all that mesh is covered so you don't see all the white. And then massaging a little bit. You do that in the beginning or all the way through. And then I find my finger is my favorite tool for the little details. Just smooth it out. Oh, that's number 37. I heard a little bird tell me that there's the Austin Mosaic Guild may actually be adding 20 this fall before it gets cold. So we're at 37 plus 20. I don't do math very well, but that's almost doubling the whole thing. So, or halving again the whole number. So it's pretty exciting. If you want to do a gear, contact me. I'm not handing them out anymore because I've lost my stash, so it's up to you to find your own gear and do just like Carol did, but in your own very personal, intuitive way. Thank you very much, guys.
All right.
So that concludes the video footage of our Ruins Virtual Tour 2020. And Rachel, did you want to wrap it up with some more good stuff?
Well, I could talk probably all night. I'm trying to think. I talked about, this is one of my favorite images right here of the stories told, the compositional quality of this wall, how it's becoming something. I guess that thing that I mentioned in the beginning about the time travel, the coal miners and the artists, and how they're the stories that are over, right? Their stories are over, but our stories, we're in this crazy, weird place in the world right now, and this is the only thing that makes me feel better, is talking about this right here. When I give a tour, it all goes away. Well, just all the hard stuff, it just goes away. Sometimes I get choked up on tours, but it's usually just about old memories and things like that. But I think this is a great example of creating good things and beauty, and no matter what is happening. I think we can always do that. And as artists, we have this amazing conduit to do that for the other people, the people who aren't artists. And I think our job right now is more important than ever, more important. So I encourage, all of us to keep creating, even if things get worse, just to keep making beautiful things, because the world needs them. So that's my ending. Yeah. Keep making beautiful things.
Yes. I cannot thank you enough for sharing your passion, this living legacy with all of us. I've shared about the ruins to many people that are not in the Mosaic community, and they're just blown away by what this is. I was able to visit a couple years ago, before the gears, before the train, and it still was quite an overwhelming, amazing step back in time. And what you're doing is truly, I'm honored to be a part of this with you. And the courses that you have at Mosaic Arts Online could not be more intertwined into your ruins. And no one else is doing this. So it has just been so wonderful to have you. You really did incredible footage with your phone. And, a little bit of help from our editor, Jerry. Yes. And the technology of Jerry. And it's just been such a wonderful little over an hour. So hopefully we still have most of you with us, because now I'm going to go with my screen big, say hello to all of you, and be the one that gets to share the big gift that till tomorrow at midnight, all of Rachel's courses, 5 of them, including her bundle, which is huge, will be 15% off. So if you don't own one of them, any of them, this is your chance. Ruins 15, just like that, into the coupon code. Click the words, the box will appear if you're new, and put in Ruins 15, and you will have 15% off any or all of these courses. They will stay forever. We do not expire our courses. Rachel does not teach live. This is your chance to learn how she does it all, and you will have it to refer back to as often as you like. And I'm sure you've all read many of the testimonials about how the online platform is really the way the world is going, and how grateful many people are to have this way of creating. And like Rachel said, some of you do have small studios, and we will have I'm going to say it wrong, macchiato. Sounds like a Starbucks drink. That one. We will have that course coming the middle of August. So
practice the pronunciation on that.
I'll practice it, but you say it.
Macchiato. It's hard. It's very hard.
That one. We will have it coming to you the middle of August. So Jerry will put this discount code into our chat right now, and this will be on our YouTube channel, so you can go back on any day that you need a lift up and you just want to walk the ruins with Rachel. This will always be available for you. So We didn't really get too many questions, but we will also be able to answer them through Mosaic Arts Online or through Rachel's website if you have stuff you want to ask her. But hopefully one day things will be a little easier for travel for the rest of the world, and you'll physically get to go to the ruins if you haven't been there. It is an incredible experience. And again, I cannot thank you enough for putting this all together. It's just been a wonderful thing.
Back at you, Tami. Thank you. Thank everybody. Yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.